Welcome into No Punt Intended, presented by Club Fantasy. This is episode 4 of our 2025 A Look Inside series, and we have finally graduated, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, we have. No more 3-win teams. We're going to the 4-win teams. And let me tell you, they're not great. It's the New England Patriots. Now, we say much improved. It couldn't get worse, but a much improved offensive line. So maybe it's a couple more targets for young Drake Maye to go after. And yes, we do have our first new head coach and new offensive coordinator to discuss and talk about. So it's going to be a fun episode. Let's get into it. Welcome into No Punt Intended, presented by Club Fantasy. This is episode 4 of our 2025 A Look Inside series. 3 dummies here to talk about the New England Patriots.
Yeah, boy. This is the Joe Zollo episode.
This is my episode. And I've noticed this depth chart is very disturbing because where the hell's Mac Hollins, first off?
When you get a little lower, you will see Mac Hollins in the training camp battle to watch section.
It's not really a battle. He's the wide receiver too. There's not many other battles out there for this wide receiver room right now. That's all I'm saying. The Patriots love a special teams guy. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Last year, 4-13. New head coach. There's a God. Mike Vrabel. One exists because Gerard Mayo is not the head coach and Mike Vrabel is. That's fantastic. New offense. I know some people either love or hate that Josh McDaniels is back. I personally like that Josh McDaniels is back.
There are Patriots fans upset that he's back?
Oh, there were a lot of Patriots fans that did not. My dad did not want Josh McDaniels back.
Interesting. Yes. Why? You guys have had such success with him.
And that's what I thought. But the stubbornness of Josh McDaniels, I totally accept. They don't feel that Vrabel and McDaniels are going to see eye to eye. Totally understand. But I think Mac Jones' best year was under Josh McDaniels. I think some of Brady's best seasons were under Josh McDaniels. Josh McDaniels is a horrible, horrible head coach.
Yeah, that's right. This comes down to separating the head coach from the coordinator.
In my opinion, is one of the best offensive coordinators of his time.
I agree.
So that's what I see. That's what I'm hoping to see. Now, his offense is a little more dated than more newer offenses in the NFL. So I understand that. But I think he's going to do well with Drake Maye, and he very easily adapts to the talent he has, as seen in that year where Brady was suspended the first 4 games with Jimmy.
Yeah, the wide receiver room is what scares me, but we'll get into that.
Yes, it does. And you know what doesn't scare me? A deposit match and a free pick from Underdog. Promo code WOFF, use WOF. Free pick, first time deposit up to $1,000. So you can bet $1,000 that Drake Maye will be the MVP this year. And guess what? If you do, you're going to still have a free $1,000 from Underdog when you lose that bet. So it's like you didn't even lose any money when you think about it. It's like you didn't even lose the bet. Look at that. All right. Projected starting offense. Again, this is the Underdog ADP as of 5/29, May 29th, day of this recording. Quarterback 1, Drake Maye. Yep. Quarterback 15 in ADP right now. RB1, Ramondre Stevenson. Get that through your thick fucking skulls, everybody. The running back 1 is Ramondre Stevenson. Get that through your skulls. RB30. The RB2 is TreVeyon Henderson. RB17. Get that through your head, that Ramondre Stevenson is the starting running back in this offense. We'll talk about that later. Antonio Gibson is the odd man out at RB77. But at this point in Josh McDaniels, they rotate the backs.
Yeah.
They just rotate him in and out. Wide receiver 1. Sure. Stephon Diggs. Sure. Wide receiver 2, Demario Douglas. Wide receiver 3, Kyle Williams. He's a rookie from college. And wide receiver 4 is Kendrick Bourne, my dog, my guy, who should not be wide receiver 4. He should be the wide receiver 1 because he deserves it. In the tight end 1 is Hunter Henry, who's the tight end 23 currently in ADP. Ryan, I'll start with you. Quick thoughts, expectations on the Patriots offense.
I expect it to be improved. Like you, I am also a fan of Josh McDaniels and what he brings to the table. And so when I was looking at this offense, recalled a lot of things that smart people have always told me. So like, I know your praise of Josh McDaniels. Austin Amendola, a person who I respect greatly, was a big fan of Drake May and what he could do with his feet last year. And I wasn't completely bought in, but seeing Drake May play, I'm far more bought in this season. I love the running back position, but we're going to talk about all of that. The concern is at wide receiver. I'm going to be perfectly honest. I knew Stephon Diggs got hurt last year. I did not realize it was carrying into this year. So I read an article that said the Patriots are hoping to have him back by week 4. That had completely not entered my mindset. I for some reason thought Diggs was going to be there from the jump. So now we're talking about they have a wide receiver 1, but they don't have him for a fourth of the season. So we're looking at guys like Demario Douglas, this rookie Kyle Williams, who people are really smart. Like our buddy Jagger May brought Kyle Williams up as like the last guy he definitely wanted to talk about for our wide receiver episode. Like he felt like Kyle Williams deserved a little bit of shine. So people are happy he ended up here. But the pass catchers in general, like I've been puzzled by you guys. A lot of people liked, was it Javon Walker? Whoever the guy was you guys drafted
last year, 4th round pick out of UCF.
Yeah, the kid from UCF, and then Jalen Polk or Jalen Polk. I don't know exactly how to pronounce his name. Regardless,
mispronounce it.
The reason I don't know how to pronounce his name is because he didn't play for shit last year. And I just look at this bunch of nobodies and it terrifies me, except, and I'll let Josh get some words in here, they know how to use a tight end in this system as well. So I'm still happy about Hunter Henry.
Yeah, when I look at this offense, a few things just kind of like scream out to me. In 18 years as a play caller, 10 seasons, Josh McDaniels he's finished in the top 6 in total rushing touchdowns. So, Joe, when you talk about Ramondre Stevenson being the RB1, that stat alone just screams Stevenson's going to have a great season on the ground.
Hey, how many of those seasons did he have Tom Brady at quarterback as well?
No, and there's the other side of it.
But that's what I'm saying.
Drake May knows how to run.
Well, it's not even that. He was top 6 in in rushing touchdowns, had the greatest quarterback of all time throwing the football.
Yep.
So
the thing that I found most hilarious, though, with the Patriots, he never finished lower than 12th in the NFL in rushing touchdowns. The worst seasons were when he was away from the Patriots, where he was a head coach with Denver and Vegas, and the one lone year in St. Louis with Jeff Fisher. But that just tells me this team is going to establish a run. They're going to run the football a ton. That's why it made sense to go get TreVeyon Henderson. But when you look at the passing output, like the wide receiver 1, if Stephon Diggs is healthy after week 4, he's probably going to see a 23-24% target share. That's going to provide some results. I mean, he wasn't bad last year with Houston. The thing is, he just doesn't have that downfield ability that he used to have once upon a time. So he's going to be a lot more in that 10.5 to 11 yards per reception. But being able to establish the run with Stevenson and Henderson, that's going to open up the deep ball. That's going to open up Kyle Williams and maybe one of the rookies from last year, Jalen Polk or Javon Baker, make some noise. Mac Hollins knows how to get downfield. Kendrick Bourne knows how to get downfield.
It's Jalen.
It's Jalen.
Jalen, whatever. However you want to pronounce it. There's a freaking apostrophe in the middle of his damn name. So
I just see J.A. and I think Ja Rule, and that's just where I am with him. So
Jalen Polk.
Regardless. But he also throws to the slot close to 30% of the time. So Demario Douglas is in for a damn good season. So there's a lot of things to like, even if there's not a ton of star power with this offense.
I don't have much more. We'll go through everything. What makes me happy is looking at the depth chart is there's 4 top 3 round picks on the offense. I can't remember the last time I've ever seen that for the New England Patriots. So that makes me feel good inside for what is going to happen as a New England Patriots fan. Let's start in the backfield because it's Josh, you brought up the rushing touchdown stat. I don't need to know that. It just helps the argument even further. It doesn't make any sense on the Ramondre Stevenson hate with the guy who drafted him back on the offense, calling the plays, giving Ramondre Stevenson the opportunity and chance. Ryan, you have TreVeyon Henderson highlighted. I think it's not for the reason to talk about TreVeyon Henderson. It's for the reason to talk about the guy that people should be talking about.
No, Joe, I don't think you're gonna like what I have to say.
All right. Well, then I don't know why are we even listening to you? This is so stupid.
Let me be very clear. I am not anti-Ramondre Stevenson in any way, shape, or form. He is on a ton of my teams already because, to Joe's point, he is a value in best ball drafts right now. I am not writing Ramondre Stevenson off, but what I am going to say is a lot of dumb analysts, myself included, have been painting TreVeyon Henderson with a James White brush. And TreVeyon Henderson is a far more complete back than James White. And all I want to get at is this is not the regime that benched Ramondre Stevenson last year, but Ramondre Stevenson did get benched. And there's still issues in Ramondre Stevenson's game. And all I'm concerned about is there are people who loved TreVeyon Henderson, Josh being one of them, had him as the second back in this draft. Yes, he fell to the second round, and I've been warning people about that. Second round draft capital for a running back is high draft capital for a running back. We need to be very clear about that. It's easy for Ramondre Stevenson to win his job back from Antonio Gibson. If shit hits the fan this year, it might not be so easy to win that back from TreVeyon Henderson. I do not love the ADP, and me and Josh were having a big discussion about this, and I know you guys talked about it on the running back episode last night. These rookie ADPs are wildly inflated, like far, far too inflated. So at RB17, I'm not touching him, plain and simple. When I look at my best ball rankings versus ADP, none of these rookies that are not named Ashton Genty feel at the right price. Everybody is just assuming every rookie is going to take over the job. And Joe, you are absolutely right. Ramondre Stevenson is the RB1 on this team. My concern is you did draft TreVeyon Henderson. Yes, this is the regime that brought in Ramondre Stevenson. It's also the regime that brought in TreVeyon Henderson. If he even just starts to take the predominant of the passing game work, which I do, it's capping both of their values. But what I am looking to say is with this offense, if one wins the job, if somebody gets hurt, the other one is so valuable. It is insane. And you're going to feel so happy you got them in your draft. But I will say my concern is Henderson is a far bigger threat to Ramondre Stevenson than Antonio Gibson ever was. And so Ramondre Stevenson needs to be on his game heading into this season.
Yeah, I talked about the running back, like the rushing touchdowns. Ramondre Stevenson only averages about 5 rushing touchdowns per season. Now, I know a lot of that has been, they just have not been a good rushing team. So that obviously has really capped that. So I think bringing, Josh McDaniels back, you have a quarterback that can run the football really well. He led all quarterbacks last year in yards per attempt. He had a really good career in college while running the football. It would not surprise me one bit if we saw Drake Maye get up to the 7 or maybe even 8 rush attempts per game. That alone is going to open up the running game, which opens up more opportunity, not just for Stevenson, but also for Henderson, who operates extremely well in space. So while I think the RB17 price tag is a little high right now, by the end of the season, I mean, he's currently, as of this summer right now, my RB22. That could very easily go up, right? Ramondre Stevenson, currently my RB39. That is way undervalued, but I only have him with 6 touchdowns. If he scores 10 touchdowns, he's going to be a top 24 back, and you're getting him in a screaming value at RB30.
So my big issue is the ADP, because everyone around him I want, and I would not want him.
Him being Henderson?
Yes.
Okay.
And you look at the history of New England Patriots. James White's the comp is James White, a much bigger and probably more athletic James White, but the comp is James White at the end of the day in this offense.
Let's rephrase that. The comp in this offense, because they are 2 completely different.
Yeah,
players.
they are not close to the same bag.
Yes.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. James White played in an offense where his 3 other running backs were Sony Michel, Cordero Patterson, and Rex Burkhead. What a time. Holy hell, what a time.
I didn't know Patterson was even with the Patriots.
You're damn right he was. The battering ram.
Then, but
yeah.
Oh,
that's why I don't remember.
But they were one of the first teams to use him as a running back.
Interesting. I literally had wiped that from my brain. Did not remember that.
Yep. He had a 54% success rate on to get a first down. Fun fact. They used him in short yardage situations because he was a battering ram.
Yeah.
So But they had Sony Michel, 931 yards, 6 rushing touchdowns. Sony Michel had 209 attempts of the 478 total rushing attempts. So Ramondre is going to take a heavy load of the rushing attempts. Reminder, this was not Sony Michel's rookie year, if I'm not mistaken. I believe it was his second season, which is normally when these Patriots take that leap forward. That was Sony Michel's rookie season. The next year he had more attempts, so that makes sense, and that goes along with my point that I'm attempting to make here. Is James White. Now, TreVeyon's going to get more rushing attempts than James White. I fully admit that. That is going to happen. TreVeyon Henderson's a bigger back. He will be utilized more like that. But the issue is when James White finished RB8 this season, he had 87 receptions for 751 yards in 7 touchdowns on 123 targets.
Oh my
That's
God.
not happening because the other running backs, Sony Michel had 11 targets.
Yeah,
they didn't throw to when James White was on the field. Guess what James White was doing? Catching the football.
Yeah,
it was plain and simple. He was catching the football. Cordero Patterson had 21 receptions. Rex Burkhead had 14. James White led the team in receptions.
Yeah, James White's job was to be underneath on the side Wes Welker wasn't on or Julian Edelman wasn't on. That was his job in this offense.
James
White the other underneath
James
guy.
White would spread wide as a receiver because they knew a cornerback couldn't cover him.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not saying TreVeyon Henderson can't do that, but Ramondre Stevenson has strong receiving ability, especially out of the backfield, not as a spread out receiver, but out of the backfield. And if they switch him around, move him in the slot and the flat. James White played in an offense where he was the receiving threat out of the backfield. He was the receiving threat on the team, especially when Julian Edelman was injured for part of the season. That is not the case. Now, I will say the receivers don't scare me to take away any receptions from these running backs, but he will work in Demario Douglas, he being Josh McDaniels. He will work in Matt Collins. He will work in Stephon Diggs, obviously. Like, he's going to work in these guys and this kid, Kyle Williams. TreVeyon Henderson's receiving upside is 55 targets. Like, I really don't think it's that high. In his rushing attempts upside, 120. Like, he needs to be really efficient. Now, like you said, if Ramondre gets hurt, this is a whole different story, but we're not projecting injury here. Yeah. I think Ramondre Stevenson gets over 200 rushing attempts this season. I think he cracks 1,000. I think TreVeyon sits around 120 and 600 yards. That's really fucking good. That's really good. That's not RB17 good. We always say this. We don't dislike the player unless they're Anthony Richardson. We dislike the ADP. And this ADP is way too high. If you flip-flop the ADPs and you put Henderson at 30 and Ramondre at 17, while I think Ramondre would be just slightly high, I think it makes sense. Because then you're putting Ramondre Stevenson next to guys such as Chuba Hubbard, Joe Mixon, and Kenneth Walker. That feels right.
Yeah, it's about where he belongs.
And you'd put TreVeyon Henderson next to Tony Pollard, Jalen Warren, and Cam Scatterbo. That feels right. So you just need to flip these guys. And this could change by August. This could change by September. But as it currently sits, this is Ramondre Stevenson's backfield.
Yeah, I'm getting Ramondre in so many of the best ball drafts I'm
so
doing
many
right now. Yeah.
And if this stays this way, thank you. Because I, once again, will have too many Ramondre Stevenson shares as my fourth running back. So that's what I just heed caution on TreVeyon Henderson. Now, going to the guy who Josh McDaniels has never really had the opportunity to have a guy like this at the quarterback position. Oh. Not that he hasn't had the greatest of all time to work with, but the greatest of all time couldn't run the football unless it was 4th or 3rd and 1. Yeah. He has Drake Maye. Is it his first look to run? No, he is a Patrick Mahomes. If you could even put Josh Allen a little bit in the conversation where they will run when they need to. They do design runs for Josh Allen, but he's not, when he drops back, he's not like, oh shit, nobody's open, I'm gonna run. It's, let me find the guy and then try and run. Drake Maye has that same thing. Josh, you want to talk about him?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, obviously we know Josh McDaniels had Tom Brady, arguably the greatest passer, the GOAT, right? He had Cam Newton in 2020, who averaged over 9 carries a game. So you have an opportunity here to kind of take the best of both of these worlds with Drake Maye, utilize him as both a downfield passer and a runner. His last year at UNC, he averaged 7.7 attempts per game. The year before that, he was over 10 carries per game. he's not afraid to run the football. And he didn't even top 5 rush attempts per game last year. But what I find interesting is that when quarterbacks run the football, like just take last year, for instance, every quarterback that had over 92 rush attempts, which was 5.4 rush attempts per game for Bo Nix, every single one of them finished in the top 8 among quarterbacks. The year before that, Justin Fields was the only one who had over 100 carries who wasn't a top 12 running back, or excuse me, top 12 quarterback. So you give him rushing opportunities. We know what he can do throwing the football. You give him these rushing opportunities, he's going to have a clear path to a top 12, maybe even top 8 fantasy finish. Mm-hmm. And he had 27.5 pass attempts per game last year with whatever they were throwing at wide receiver. You actually get him a legitimate wide receiver 1 in Stephon Diggs. You work in a couple of these young guys, a couple of these veterans. You get a new scheme around them that can throw the football. You get him a very talented running back that can catch passes in TreVeyon Henderson. There's a clear path to 3,400 passing yards, 22 touchdowns, and another 700 rushing yards. QB 15 is a screaming value. Like this is the kind of pick that you make because you know, hey, this is an QB 2 that has top 8 upside. That's how you win leagues, because you get the value at quarterback.
So I think Drake Maye, and we'll get to his ADP play a little. Would you rather? I just want to bring up that Tom Brady had 23 rushing attempts for 35 yards in 2018. His longest rush was 10 yards. So he had 22 attempts for 25 yards.
Wild.
That's awesome. Brian Hoyer had 11 attempts for -8 because those were all kneel downs at the end of a game.
At the end of the game.
Just funny. So I brought it up. Drake Maye, I feel, is screaming value, but where he's around feels like he's properly placed.
Yeah, that's the thing is I'm noticing QBs almost from like, and I know it's what we're about to do, 9 to like 18. Like they're all kind of interchangeable for me right now in best ball drafts. It's about what wide receiver did I grab earlier that I'm trying to build a mini stack with. So
here's why I say he's pretty properly placed, right? We go 2 above, 2 below. Justin Fields and Justin Herbert are both above Drake Maye. If you told me you walked away with either of those 3 guys in the draft, cool.
Yeah.
Like if you said, hey, I took Drake Maye over Herbert, fine. I took Drake Maye over Fields. Okay, sure. You want a little bit more passing with your rushing. Or I took Fields over Maye. Yeah, you're just putting a running back at your quarterback position. Sure. Yeah. You go 2 below. Jordan Love, not a rushing upside, but obviously a very good passer. We like that. Dak Prescott, we've obviously seen great things from Prescott. Yeah. And so like that's fine. So like it feels like he's properly sitting. Then you go CJ Stroud, JJ McCarthy, like it feels good. When you jump above Fields and you go to these 4 guys is where I'm like, maybe these guys are the ones that fluctuate between could be 9, could be 20. Caleb Williams. If it's not this year, Chicago, draft a quarterback. Like the offensive line could arguably be top 10 in the NFL. He has 3 legitimate weapons, now a tight end weapon. Like, what is the best offensive coordinator in the game? What is the excuse? Yeah. There's no excuse. Jared Goff, does he take a step back with Ben Johnson not being there? And obviously, we all think he does, but there's obviously no rushing upside with Jared Goff. There's 0. Yeah. Kyler Murray, he runs, not enough, and he's a quarterback, but also not enough. So like, where does that play?
Great analysis. I love that.
And then Brock Purdy. What is Brock Purdy? So if you told me, because Kyler Murray's going 8-9, he's going 8th round. Drake Maye's currently going at the back end of the 10th. Kyler's going back end of the 8th. If you told me that Kyler Murray, Caleb Williams, Jared Goff, Brock Purdy were on the board and you took Drake Maye, I'd be like, yeah.
But that's the thing, fine. Joe. That's also the game theory we've been getting into with these quarterbacks. I'm always going to take the cheapest one of that bunch. If I know I can wait 2 rounds, upgrade my running back and wide receiver position, and then grab Drake Maye over Kyler Murray every time I'm doing that.
So I agree with that, but let me tell you. So let's say all these quarterbacks are on the board and you took Drake Maye over Kyler Murray because Kyler Murray is rated the highest right now. I don't think any of us would have a problem with that. No, not even the slightest. Like if you sat in the 8th round and were like, I love Drake Maye, I want to make sure he's on my team. Yeah, like fine.
the game theory of me would yell at you for that just because of the 8th round, not because of the player. I would just be like, you don't need to do that in the 8th round.
and I agree. I'm a guy that will like, I think I can get Drake May in the 9th or 10th. And I'm okay with that.
I play the game.
Yes, I play the game. And I would wait knowing like, okay, if I don't, I'll take Jordan Love, I'll take Dak Prescott.
Exactly. I'll take Justin Herbert.
And I'm okay with that. As a Patriots fan, I play in a lot of league with a lot of Patriots fans. I know I'm not getting
you better take him in the 8th or you're never seeing him.
I better take him in the 5th or I'm not getting him. I know I'm not getting Drake May, so I've come to terms with that. Yeah. But in leagues where I don't play with Patriots fans, I have a strong feeling I walk away with a lot of Drake May this year.
Yeah.
But that's the thing is, again, if you sat there and told me you took Drake May over Jared Goff, none of us would be mad at that statement. Nope. So he's properly rated, but there's guys that are in that quarterback 1 rankings that if you said you were going to take May over him, I think we would all really.
And Josh has said this for years. Use rushing as the tiebreaker. If you're looking at 4 guys and 2 of those guys, Kyler Murray and Drake May, have likely over 80 rushing attempts this year, those are your 2. Those should be the 2 you're looking 100%. For. So.
Training camp battle to watch. There is no battle for the starting running back. It is Ramondre Stevenson's backfield until he gets hurt, fumbles the football, or TreVeyon Henderson turns into Adrian Peterson. Like it's Ramondre Stevenson's backfield, and if it's not, it's still a 1A, 1B, but at that point it's a 1A and a 1AA if it's not Ramondre's backfield. It's a very split backfield. Wide receiver 2 is a legit battle. You have Demario Douglas, who will probably act as the number 1 slot guy. But who's going to be opposite Stephon Diggs is the real question. And that's going to be Kyle Williams, Kendrick Bourne, Mac Hollins, or Kayshon Boutte.
And honestly, again, you can throw Jalen Polk. You can throw Javon Baker in that conversation.
Jalen Polk is going to get cut. Jalen Polk will
2nd round pick, right?
Not even a question. Jalen Polk will get cut. 2nd round pick, not drafted by anybody currently.
Oh, that's fair. I'm just saying it's incredible to me that like it was either a very, very bad pick. I know there were people who really liked him coming out of Washington.
He can't block. He's a diva. Like that is not going to fly in a Mike Vrabel, and they have too many receivers that they can easily interchange and intertwine.
The fact that they
them.
Drafted, it was 2 more again this year, right? Kyle Williams and another. Or am I wrong about that? No, it was
just Kyle Williams. Kyle Williams. So, I mean, I'm interested to know what you guys think as outsiders, and I will give my perspective as a Patriots fan who follows this team closely. So, Ryan, I'll start with you. Who do you think? We all know that Demario Douglas is the slot guy, and he's the wide receiver too. But who is the opposite guy, Stephon Diggs, on the outside?
I gave it to the drafter, Kyle Williams. So in my target breakdown, I wanted it to be Kendrick Bourne. And until they drafted Kyle Williams, it was Kendrick Bourne for me. Mac Hollins was hard to like kind of decide how you wanted to use him, but I do think he's there for the special teams prowess. I don't think he's even going to have as big a role as he had on the Bills because the Bills just had no wide receivers. So I'm giving it to the drafter, but again, I'm only giving him 58 targets. Coming into this, I had Diggs at close to 120. I did not know about the 4-week thing, as I mentioned. So I bumped Diggs down to 105, moved Douglas up to 99 even, and then Kyle Williams at 58. Just to throw it out there because I do like the tight end in this offense. I have Hunter Henry at 69 targets. So I do think Hunter Henry is probably the 3rd wide receiver or for at least 3rd target. But I do think it's going to be Kyle Williams who ends up starting on the outside. I think his skill set, he kind of brings something to the table. I think he's probably like Bourne is a yards per catch guy, but he's not quite. I think he's a little. I always get confused with Bourne's size. I don't know how he compares size wise to Kyle Williams, but I think Kyle Williams is going to kind of bring an outside receiver skill set that a lot of the guys on the current roster don't have.
Kendrick Bourne's 6'1", 205.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say I always think he's smaller than he is. So
no. Yeah, go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, so the way that I have this kind of shaking out, I'm actually like looking at my projections now. I'm like, damn, I feel like I really undersold Hunter Henry after having over 90 targets last year. But
yeah,
I gave Diggs 110. And a lot of it is because I just am like kind of divvying up with the wide receiver pie. Like I have Douglas at 76, and then it jumps all the way down. Hollins at 34, Bourne 24, because I'm giving more to Henderson. I'm giving more to Hunter Henry. You know, they're going to run some 2 tight end sets. So Austin Hooper is going to be in there. But I only gave this offense right now 531 pass attempts. Like I don't have them slinging it a ton. But I think really how this is going to start, I think it's going to be Diggs, Williams as the Z. I think it's going to be Bourne and Hollins as the X. And then you're going to have Douglas and probably Polk working in the slot. And then kind of seeing how everything else will sort around that. That again, that's just how my mind works based on like skill sets with the players, size of the athletes, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's fine. You're just wrong that Jalen Polk is not making this roster.
I didn't do enough.
And again, and maybe that's the case. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I have this inside info. Like he was a second round pick last year. Like it would be really difficult to move off of a second round pick in 1 year. I'm not saying it can't happen or won't happen, but it's just, again, it just would not be smart. But again,
well, if he's bad,
maybe Vrabel, maybe McDaniels just do not like Polk. I mean, the guy that actually drafted him, the GM, is still in the front office.
Yeah, but he's there as like hey, Elliot, we're not going to fire you, but you're here.
Yeah.
So.
But I also think Booty could get moved. I mean, he was kind of acting pretty diva-ish in the middle of the season too. So
not as much as Jalen. I'm telling, like they started liking Booty again, but none of these coaches obviously were with Keyshawn Booty. So I will give you the last year McDaniels was the OC. Jacoby Myers had 126 targets. The next closest guy had 50 less targets. That was Hunter Henry. Yeah. So, and then you go down to Kendrick Bourne, Nelson Aguilar, and after that, Brandon Bolden, Jonnu Smith.
It's really divvied out like that. That's what made this so difficult, especially when the wide receiver room is so spread out. You have no idea like what the real pecking order is. Like the safest bet for targets is Stephon Diggs because they paid him $22 million a year.
I was just trying to see how many teams. I might do some research into this. It's relatively interesting. How many teams kept more than 6 wide receivers? Because then you have Mac Hollins, who is there to play special teams, and it seems like his role is pretty secure. And like, where does he fit in all of this?
So with Slater, they would always keep a 6th receiver, and he would be a receiver, but he was obviously the special teams guy.
Yeah.
So Hollins is going to be the 6th receiver, but he will probably get some run in the offense. But the thing is that I want to bring up is that whoever the 4th receiver is irrelevant. So whoever ends up being the 3rd receiver, like N'Keal Harry was the 4th receiver, 22 targets.
Yeah.
12 catches. Like he didn't do anything.
To be fair, that's most NFL teams these days.
Yeah.
But that's true. But the Patriots heavily run.
100%.
They heavily run throwing to the backfield, and they heavily run throwing to the tight ends, especially in a Josh McDaniels offense. And keep in mind, this was James White getting injured 3 games into the season. So they didn't even have their number 1 receiving threat out of the backfield. So when it goes Diggs is probably, I honestly I don't think Diggs is Myers. I think Demario Douglas is Jacoby Myers because Demario Douglas runs more of what Jacoby Myers ran than Stephon Diggs will. Diggs is going to stay on the outside. Demario Douglas is going to move around like Jacoby Myers. I think you're going to see Douglas at the end of the day is going to be highest in targets. Henry and Diggs are going to be close, depending on how many games Diggs plays. I wouldn't write off.
Joe, let me remind you, last year in Houston, Diggs ran out of the slot almost 53% of the time.
Yes, but Josh McDaniels is not going to run him out of the slot. McDaniels won't run him out of the slot. He's going to run him as the X. He will move Douglas around because Douglas is shiftier, younger, all these things. He's going to put Diggs out there as the X. I wouldn't write off Kendrick Bourne. He had 55 catches for 800 yards and 5 touchdowns. So that was the thing I wanted to look up before diving into Kyle Williams. I wouldn't write off Kendrick Bourne because McDaniels has worked with Bourne. He has stayed on the team. He is really good. I wouldn't write off Bourne yet, but I do think the 3 is between Bourne and Kyle Williams. After that, you can write the rest of this team off.
Yeah, I'm just really curious to see how many of the younger receivers make an impact because you have some older guys. Bourne's pushing 30. Mac Hollins, I believe, is 30. Diggs is 31. Like they need some youth infusion with this team.
Here's what I think in the first 3 weeks or first 4 weeks when Diggs is recovering. Douglas's role doesn't change. Douglas is the same guy no matter when Diggs comes back. Kyle Williams and Kendrick Bourne get the first crack. I think those guys get the first crack unless Williams just shits the bed in training camp and it's horrible. Those guys get the first crack. And then whoever's better, I think that guy plays the role as the 3rd guy.
Well, and that's where it gets interesting. If Williams does shit the bed, that is going to open it up for Mac Hollins, because Mac Hollins is a grinder, and Vrabel and McDaniels are going to love that, to where they'll go with the trusted veteran until Diggs gets back. They're not going to be dumb about it. So
that could even open up for Booty too. Again, Booty ran that X role.
See,
and he ran it well last year.
I agree. I don't know how he makes this team. Like, just with I know you think he's making it over Polk, obviously, Joe.
That's why, I think Polk is gone. I think Baker's gone. The other guys are obviously
Baker's gone. Baker is gone.
Yeah, and there's your 6 receiver. So I have Booty over Polk.
Okay,
that's why. So, yeah, best bets for the season. Josh, you have under 8.5 wins at even money. That's interesting. A lot of people have the Patriots at 10 wins, 11 wins this year. They don't.
There was under 6.5 was like plus 420 or something like that, which that kind of intrigued me too. But Vrabel, I think he's a good enough coach that I think they can get to close to 500. I
think they're a 9-win team. I think they go 9-8, and they squeak into the playoffs.
That's fair. I think plus 100 is kind of like that borderline between 8 and 9. That I think it's worth a decent gamble. Like that's why I didn't go with like the under 6.5 or like plus 420. I felt like the under 8.5 was more of a safer bet.
I still don't like it. You're burning money. This one is fun though. Pats score 1+ rushing touchdown in every regular season game. That's plus 3,000 on DraftKings.
And it goes to my point.
Josh, yes.
Yeah.
The whole rushing touchdowns. Josh McDaniels love running the football. It's very clear. Ryan, sure. Even burning money even further. TreVeyon Henderson to win Offensive Rookie of the Year.
I'm just saying
on FanDuel.
There's a path that he's the starter for the Patriots and puts up the best numbers by a running back. I'll take plus 2,000 on that. So
mine, again, I don't give you any odds, but whatever Demario Douglas's reception total is, bump that one up.
Yeah, I haven't seen any of those numbers. Diggs had and honestly, a lot of the receiver numbers were, it was like minus 110 for over or under.
That's what it's going to be. Yeah, that's what it's going to be.
For all of our picks for today's episodes we're recording, I didn't go with any of the 110 ones. The other ones just seem slightly more interesting to me. So
yeah. So I will give you Demario Douglas over on his receptions and his receiving yards at that point, because obviously if you're going over on the receptions, 9 times out of 10 you're going over on the receiving yards as well. So
all right, Joe, here's what I got on. They don't have individual stats on Douglas yet. They just have Offensive Player of the Year and most receiving yards in the NFL.
Yeah, bet Demario Douglas, most receiving yards in the NFL. Easy.
All right, it pays plus 25,000.
So that's plus 25,000. So what? That's $250,000.
$250 for $1.
So 250 to 1 odds.
Yes.
Okay. I'd take that. I bet $10 on that. Are you kidding me? I bet 10. It's not gonna. But hey, you want a fun bet? You want to burn money? $10. Demario Douglas. And you want to how you can burn money? Promo code WAF on Underdog. It's like that.
They don't quite have those kind of bets. You have to like prop some things together.
Like those $10 never even existed. Yeah, I know you can't do that. But like, hey, you still, join Underdog and all that fun stuff. All right, folks, a little bit longer because obviously you had a Patriots fan here who has his thoughts, and these guys don't know the Patriots. So Ryan thinks TreVeyon Henderson's a starting fucking running back. So
rookie of the year.
And I forgot you weren't on the running back show where we were like, hey.
Well, what's funny is I didn't even get a chance to listen in, and Josh warned me that you guys kind of downplayed TreVeyon Henderson. Well, guess what? I have a counterpoint that's going to air 3 weeks after that episode.
Sure, yeah. Irrelevancy. For Josh, Ryan, myself, this was episode 4 of our Look Inside series for 2025 on the New England Patriots. Next week, Josh, who is up? Or next episode, excuse me, not next week.
The Jacksonville Jaguars.
The Travis Hunter Jaguars are up, ladies and gentlemen. We'll have a fun time talking about him, and honestly, probably one of our only IDP relevant talks for those that are going to partake in that, because obviously he is a Shohei Ohtani-like player for any players in IDP leagues. Always remember, defense wins championships, offense wins fantasy football. We'll see you on the next episode.